Imagine a man who heard nothing, yet shaped the very sound of a nation. A brilliant mind, born into silence, who moved mountains and carved pathways through untamed wilderness, not with spoken commands, but with sheer will, an unshakable vision, and an almost magical intuition for the Earth's deepest secrets. This is not just a tale of engineering marvels, but of an extraordinary individual virtually forgotten by history, whose eccentricities were as profound as his genius, and whose silent determination fundamentally altered the course of American expansion. His name was Arthur Powell Davis, and his life's work, a symphony of concrete, steel, and redirected rivers, began not with a bang, but with the silent, insistent whisper to the very soul of the American West. The year is 1882. The American West, a land of myth and boundless promise, is still largely an enigma. Vast, arid stretches separate fledgling settlements, and the mighty Colorado River, a temperamental serpent of liquid power, thrashes uncontrolled through colossal canyons, its waters alternately a devastating flood and a tantalizing, unattainable resource. For generations, the desert had dictated terms, its unforgiving embrace thwarting all but the most resilient. Agriculture was a gamble. Towns were isolated islands, and the dream of a verdant empire stretching from coast to coast seemed perpetually just out of reach, choked by dust and thirst. Into this crucible of raw nature stepped Arthur Powell Davis. Born in 1861, Davis was no ordinary child. A severe illness in infancy had stolen his hearing, plunging him into a world of profound silence. Yet this very disability, often seen as a limitation, became the forge of his unique genius. Unable to rely on auditory cues, Davis developed an unparalleled visual acuity and an almost tactile understanding of his surroundings. He observed with a meticulousness that hearing individuals rarely cultivated, noticing the subtle shifts in rock strata, the faint whispers of ancient watercourses, the invisible currents that shaped the land. His mind, unburdened by auditory distraction, processed information in complex, interconnected patterns, seeing possibilities where others saw only insurmountable obstacles. His uncle, John Wesley Powell, a legendary one-armed Civil War veteran, geologist, and explorer who had famously navigated the entire length of the Colorado River, recognized Arthur's extraordinary potential. John Wesley Powell was a titan of his era, a man of grand visions and scientific rigor, who understood the intricate dance between land, water, and human endeavor. He brought young Arthur into the fold of the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, providing him not just a job, but a lifelong mentorship and an intellectual playground perfectly suited to his burgeoning talents. Arthur began as a humble topographical assistant, mapping the bewildering contours of the arid West. He crisscrossed desolate landscapes, his boots kicking up dust on forgotten trails, his eyes scanning horizons that stretched to infinity. He wasn't just drawing lines on paper, he was interpreting the Earth's autobiography, understanding its geological grammar, and discerning its potential. His reports were not merely factual, they were imbued with a prescient understanding of where water could be found, where it could be stored, and how it could be tamed. It was during these arduous expeditions that Davis, despite his lack of formal engineering training, he had studied geology and natural history, began to formulate radical ideas for water management. He saw the Colorado River not as an untamable force, but as a sleeping giant waiting to be harnessed. He envisioned monumental dams, colossal structures that would capture the river's wild energy, transforming barren lands into fertile fields and parched settlements into thriving cities. These were audacious concepts, far grander than anything conceived before, requiring unprecedented scale and engineering audacity.
the prevailing wisdom of the time was cautious, if not outright dismissive, of such grand schemes. Building dams in the rugged, seismically active West was considered impractical, if not impossible. But Davis, with the unwavering support of his uncle, possessed a quiet conviction that bordered on obstinacy. He couldn't hear the skeptics, and perhaps in his silent world their doubts simply held less sway. He communicated primarily through written notes, diagrams, and an intensity in his gaze that conveyed the sheer power of his convictions. His early career was marked by relentless dedication and an almost ascetic lifestyle. He often preferred the solitude of the wilderness, meticulously sketching geological formations, measuring water flows, and meticulously documenting every detail of the land. His colleagues, while sometimes bewildered by his silent intensity and eccentric habits, he was known to disappear for days on solitary treks, only to return with reams of precise data, nonetheless recognized his extraordinary abilities. They learned to communicate with him through patient writing, and quickly discovered that behind the quiet demeanor lay a mind of astonishing depth and foresight. As the 19th century drew to a close, the pressure for westward expansion intensified. Railroads were pushing further into the interior, and the burgeoning populations of California and the Southwest desperately needed water. The dreams of manifest destiny, once fueled by land, now hinged on the control of a single powerful element: water. It was becoming increasingly clear that without a systematic approach to irrigation and flood control, the growth of the West would inevitably stall. This growing crisis provided the perfect stage for Davis's innovative ideas. In 1902, with the passage of the Reclamation Act, a landmark piece of legislation spearheaded by President Theodore Roosevelt and supported by John Wesley Powell's ongoing advocacy, the U.S. Reclamation Service, later the Bureau of Reclamation, was established. Its mission: to bring water to the arid West. Arthur Powell Davis, with his unparalleled knowledge of Western hydrology and geology, was a natural fit. He joined the new agency as its first chief engineer, a role that would ultimately define his legacy and reshape the American landscape. His rise within the Reclamation Service was meteoric, not because of political maneuvering or eloquent speeches, neither of which he was capable of, but purely on the strength of his ideas and his ability to translate complex geological realities into practical engineering solutions. He was rapidly promoted to assistant chief engineer, then chief engineer, and by 1914 he was named director of the entire organization. This was an astonishing achievement for a deaf man in an era where such disabilities often led to marginalization. His intellect, his work ethic, and his undeniable results spoke volumes where he could not. As director, Davis embarked on an ambitious program of dam construction. He oversaw the planning and execution of numerous projects across the West, each a testament to his vision and the burgeoning capabilities of American engineering. While dams like the Roosevelt Dam in Arizona and the Arrow Rock Dam in Idaho were significant achievements under his tenure, they were merely preludes to his grandest ambition: the taming of the Colorado River itself. The Colorado River was a beast. Its annual floods were destructive, wiping out farms and towns, while its low flows left fertile lands parched. The river's immense power, estimated to be capable of irrigating millions of acres and generating vast amounts of electricity, remained untapped. For Davis, controlling the Colorado was not just an engineering challenge, it was a moral imperative, a way to unlock the dormant potential of an entire region. He began meticulously studying every aspect of the river basin, from its vast watershed to its treacherous canyons. He personally led reconnaissance missions, braving the scorching desert sun and navigating perilous river rapids, always with his characteristic quiet intensity. He meticulously charted potential dam sites, analyzing rock formations, hydrological data, and economic feasibility. His detailed reports, filled with complex calculations and precise geological observations, became the blueprint for the largest public works project in American history.
His vision for the Colorado River culminated in the proposal for a gargantuan dam in Black Canyon, or Boulder Canyon, a structure that would dwarf all previous efforts. This dam, later known as Boulder Dam, and eventually Hoover Dam, was not merely a construction project, it was a geopolitical endeavor. It required agreements between 7 different states, each vying for their share of the precious water. Davis, despite his communication challenges, became a key figure in these complex negotiations, his detailed data and unshakable conviction serving as powerful arguments. He couldn't participate in the verbal sparring, but his meticulously prepared reports and direct written communication cut through the political rhetoric, laying bare the facts and the immense potential of his plan. The scale of the proposed dam was staggering. It would be taller than any existing structure, requiring unprecedented amounts of concrete and innovative construction techniques. The sheer audacity of the project drew both awe and skepticism. Critics argued it was too expensive, too complex, and potentially dangerous. But Davis, fortified by decades of experience and an almost spiritual connection to the land, remained resolute. He had seen the possibilities, drawn the blueprints in his mind's eye, and he knew it could be done. His dedication to the project was absolute. He immersed himself in every detail, from the geological surveys to the concrete mix designs. He often communicated with his engineers through detailed sketches and written notes, sometimes working late into the night. His office was a testament to his methodical mind, stacked with maps, geological samples, and reams of meticulously organized data. Colleagues recalled his intense, unwavering gaze, a silent testament to his profound concentration. Beyond the technical challenges, Davis also grappled with the human element. The Reclamation Service, under his leadership, was not just building dams, it was creating communities. He understood the social impact of these projects, envisioning not just water for crops, but stable towns, electric power for homes, and new opportunities for millions. His silent world allowed him to focus with singular clarity on the ultimate purpose of his work, to improve lives. Davis's tenure as director was marked by relentless progress and innovation. He fostered a culture of scientific rigor and practical problem-solving within the Reclamation Service. He encouraged his engineers to push the boundaries of existing technology, to experiment with new materials and methods. He was a demanding but fair leader, respected for his intellect and his unwavering commitment to the mission. However, despite his monumental achievements, Arthur Powell Davis remained a relatively obscure figure in the public eye. His deafness, while sharpening his internal focus, also limited his ability to engage in the public relations and political grandstanding that often accompanied projects of such scale. He was a man of action, not words, preferring the quiet satisfaction of a successfully completed engineering feat to public accolades. His personal life reflected his professional intensity. He was a man of routine, meticulous in his habits, and deeply introverted. While he had a family, his true passion remained the rivers and the land. His colleagues often described him as eccentric, perhaps due to his unique communication style and his single-minded dedication. He was rarely seen without a notebook and pencil, ready to jot down an idea or respond to a query. The 1920s saw increasing pressure and politicking surrounding the Colorado River. The proposed dam became a focal point of interstate rivalries, and powerful political figures began to assert their influence. Davis, a man of science and engineering, found himself increasingly caught in a whirlwind of political machinations that he was ill-equipped to navigate. In 1923, after years of dedicated service and on the cusp of seeing his grand vision for the Colorado River begin construction, Arthur Powell Davis was unceremoniously dismissed from his position as director of the Reclamation Service. The official reasons were vague, citing administrative reorganization, but the unspoken truth was political expediency. Powerful California interests, seeking greater control over the Colorado River's water, had successfully lobbied for his removal, seeing him as an obstacle to their ambitions. They wanted a more politically pliable figure at the helm, someone who would bend to their will. The dismissal was a cruel blow, a bitter end to a career dedicated to public service. Davis was devastated. He had poured his life's energy into these projects, seeing them not just as engineering challenges, but as his enduring legacy to the American people. The silence that had always been his companion must have seemed particularly heavy then, echoing with the injustice of his removal. Despite this setback, Davis's influence was indelible. The detailed geological surveys, the hydrological data, the intricate engineering plans, all were his. Even after his departure, the momentum he had created, the groundwork he had laid, continued to propel the Colorado River project forward. The sheer scale and meticulousness of his preparatory work meant that his successors, even those who had orchestrated his removal, had no choice but to follow the blueprints he had so carefully crafted. After his dismissal, Davis returned to private practice, working as a consulting engineer. He continued to advocate for sound water management policies, his silent voice still echoing in the written reports and proposals he tirelessly produced. He lent his expertise to various projects, both in the United States and abroad, his reputation as a hydrological genius undiminished among those who truly understood the complexities of water resource development. He lived long enough to see the initial stages of construction begin on the Boulder Dam in 1931. Though he was not at the helm, the monumental concrete structure rising in Black Canyon was, in essence, his creation. Every shovel of earth, every pour of concrete, every engineering challenge overcome, was built on the foundation of his meticulous planning, his deep understanding of the river, and his unyielding vision. Arthur Powell Davis passed away in 1933, just 2 years before the completion of Boulder Dam. He never saw the finished marvel, never heard the roar of the generators, or witnessed the verdant transformation of the desert that his work had made possible. He died largely unrecognized by the broader public, a silent architect whose genius was understood by few, but whose impact was felt by millions. The Hoover Dam, as Boulder Dam was eventually named, stands as a towering testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. But beneath its grand facade lies the silent legacy of Arthur Powell Davis. It was his deaf ears that heard the whispers of the ancient river, his observant eyes that saw its hidden potential, and his unwavering mind that conceived the monumental solution. Today, millions of people in the American Southwest rely on the water and power provided by the Colorado River dams, especially the Hoover Dam. Cities like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Phoenix owe their very existence and continued prosperity to these projects. The agricultural abundance of California's Imperial Valley and Arizona's farmlands, producing food for the nation, is a direct result of the irrigation systems that flow from Davis's grand design. Yet ask most Americans who designed the Hoover Dam, and few would name Arthur Powell Davis. His story remains largely untold, overshadowed by the more charismatic figures and political machinations of his era. His eccentricity, his silence, and his preference for meticulous work over public accolades contributed to his historical obscurity. But for those who delve into the history of American engineering and water resource management, Arthur Powell Davis is a legendary figure. He was a quiet revolutionary, a man who, despite his profound disability, possessed an extraordinary capacity to visualize and realize solutions on epic scale. His life is a powerful reminder that genius often operates in silence, that true vision can emerge from unexpected places, and that the greatest architects of our world are not always the loudest or most celebrated. His legacy is not etched in stone with his name, but in the shimmering lakes he created, the fertile fields he brought to life, and the enduring infrastructure that continues to quench the thirst and power the dreams of the American West. Arthur Powell Davis, the deaf, eccentric genius, heard the unspoken needs of a nation, and, in his profound silence, reshaped a continent, one audacious whisper at a time. His story is a testament to the power of a single, unwavering vision to literally move mountains and forge a future.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this.